Baba.
Jujutsu Kaisen is fraught with colorful characters, many with devastating abilities, powers, and even worse, morals. I mean, this is a show about curses, so we'd expect no less, but even among the good guys, sure. Gojo might say that he's on the good side, but is that guy really all that lawful? And what of our chaotic first-year trio? Yuji might seem like the goodest boy in the entire series, but can the same be said of Megumi, of Nobara, heck, of Panda? So today we're ranking some of the most well-known characters of Jujutsu Kaisen, from the pure and good to the downright dastardly. In this video, we'll be using the good old alignment chart system, meaning we'll be ranking these guys from lawful good to chaotic evil. I'm Zane McHale and welcome to Cosplay-FTW, your #1 source for the latest lowdown on anime and manga news, updates, and analysis. Sit back, relax, and before we get into this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any new videos. Before we start, please keep in mind, this is all in good fun and shouldn't be taken too seriously. Just because we called your fave evil doesn't necessarily mean that they are. Although, given that this series does have some pretty messed up characters, we're probably right, and you probably know it. Now, let's dive in. First up, we've got the good guys, starting with Lawful. These guys live and swear by the law at all times. They do their best to follow the rules and don't condone any sort of rule breaking, even for innocent purposes, which can be good, except if you're on the receiving end of their criticism. At the bottom of this list is Masamichi Yaga. This guy is literally the school's principal, so you already know he's gonna be pretty uptight about the rules. But honestly, no matter how strict he can be, you can always count on him to be fair. He doesn't play favorites, so he's got that going for him. And really, how evil can a guy who loves plush dolls as much as he does be? As a matter of fact, how evil can the creator of Panda be? At the top of Lawful Goods is none other than Gojo's biggest simp, the sharply dressed Kasumi Miwa, her clothes and sword being the only sharp things about her. Kasumi is just really sweet, and probably the least likely to ever commit a crime in her entire class, which isn't that surprising considering the other students in her school. We've yet to see her try to do anything extremely terrible, well, except for that attempt on Yuji's life. But hey, that was only one time. Plus, she was genuinely contrite about it, even enough to apologize to him for it later. She worked so hard towards becoming a sorcerer because she wants to take care of her 2 younger brothers, which is pretty commendable in our books. Now on to the neutral goods. These guys might be willing to bend a few rules here and there, but always with good intentions. They're good guys, but you know, the kind you'd actually want to hang out with. First up is Panda. I mean, just look at him. Who wouldn't want to cuddle into his fur? Also, Panda seems like he'd get along with anyone, regardless of who they are. Unless, of course, they mess with his friends. And then that's when he'll literally go apeshit on you. Don't you love it when your favorite anime makes a literal talking panda bear one of the cast? Next is best boy Toga Inumaki. Inumaki is a pretty cool and chill guy. He's a man of few words, since he can only communicate using a limited series of rice ball ingredients. He might seem pretty quiet and calm, but you don't really know what lies just beneath the surface. After Inumaki is Maki Zenin. Maki is that cool senpai that we all look up to and hope will notice us. She's strong, confident, and generally someone you wouldn't want to rile up. Maki has her own rules and ideals that she sticks to, and hates being beholden to anyone else's laws. You can bet Maki's down to destroy useless traditions, including the bias system in her own family, and we all love her for it. At the top of this category is Megumi Fushiguro. Like we always say, beware the quiet ones. Megumi's that kid who you've never seen get heated, and honestly, you're kind of scared to see him get genuinely mad, because you know there has to be some deep-seated rage hiding under that placid expression. Nevertheless, Fushiguro is a good person. He believes the world is unfair, and as a sorcerer, he wants to make sure that the kind and innocent are given a chance to live. He doesn't claim to be a hero, nor does he want to be. He sees sorcerers as a tool for good, and we respect that. With that, Fushiguro earns himself the top spot as the most neutral of the goods. And finally, we arrive at Chaotic Good. Few characters in the entirety of JJK are worthy of this title. A chaotic good character usually means well and still fights for good, but doesn't like being tied down by pointless rules. In fact, they tend to forget that there are rules altogether. They're free-spirited, free thinkers above everything else. Basically, they would wholly support your terrible decisions as long as you don't hurt anyone who doesn't deserve it. And the only character worthy of chaotic good is none other than Nobara Kugisaki. Nobara is strong-willed, outspoken, snarky, and irreverent. Honestly, she's everything Sakura from Naruto should have been. She believes in staying true to herself, and honestly, good for her. No matter who you are, we all wish we could be more like her. Also, you know she's always up for a good time, so she'd be really fun to hang out with. And next, wait. I bet you thought we were done here, right? Wrong. After debating about this decision, we couldn't leave our next choice out. Sharing the top spot with Nobara, drumroll please, is the adorer of great food and thick women, our favorite protagonist, Yuji Itadori. Yuji is literally the friendliest guy around. He could find something in common with anybody. Sure, he can be a total goofball, but he's never out to do any active harm. The only times that Yuji feels truly aggressive is in the face of absolute evil and pure malice. And who can blame him for that? One of his most defining traits is his willingness to sacrifice himself for the good of others. He was even willing to eat one of Sukuna's gross, shriveled, cursed fingers to save Megumi and some of his fellow classmates, inadvertently becoming a vessel for the King of Curses himself. Talk about taking one for the team. And sure, this was definitely against, well, some kind of rule. It was heroic all the same. Plus, he and Nobara truly synergize as the most chaotic good duo in the series. Now, on to the neutrals. We find that they're either really nonchalant or completely uptight. First up, the Lawfuls. These guys have a set of rules they like to follow, whether it be from someone else's or their own code. Working our way up from the bottom of the Lawfuls. First up, Iori Urahime, a faculty member of Kyoto Jutsu High, is the type of woman you can tell is one minor inconvenience away from having a nervous breakdown. Looking at her, you just wish the school would give her a vacation or something. Honestly, having to deal with the kind of students she has to, it's no wonder she's the way she is. We'll also throw in the laid back and burnt out Shoko Iori from the Tokyo Jujutsu faculty for good measure. These two really need a day off to go grab a drink together. Next is Kento Nanami. Nanami is like the substitute teacher who declares the whole period is for study time, to get in some reading or watch Netflix on his phone, and leaves the students to their own devices for the most part. Then he dismissed the class 15 minutes before the period's supposed to be over because he wants to beat traffic and go home early. But hey, no one's complaining here. If he does bother to teach the subject, you know he'd be capable of doing it better than the actual teacher, especially if that teacher is Gojo. And the epitome of lawful neutrals is Yoshinobu Gakuganji. This guy is the personification of that out-of-touch boomer who's always trying to get everyone to reject modernity and return to tradition since he's salty. Kids these days. He likes to think he's lawful good, but really, nothing about what he does is in anyone's best interests but the outdated traditions that he upholds. Sure, he might have a cool guitar, but that's probably the only thing cool about him. Also, nobody likes him. Really? Whose favorite character is this? Now on to the true neutrals. These guys usually only look out for themselves. They typically don't go out of their way to commit any extremes, with a few exceptions. First up is Aoi Todo, Yuji's brother and best friend of a whopping single episode. He's always looking for a fight, super fickle and a slave to his whims, like when he decides to fight Megumi, all because his wholesome taste in women literally bored him to tears. Todo lives for the fight and doesn't care who it is, as long as it's fun. Well, At least you can kind of respect that. But also, he's just a really exhausting person to have to babysit. And just like Yoshinobu, no one really likes him. They'll tolerate him, sure, but this man just does the most. Even Yuji had to ghost him after a while. Mai Zenin. Despite being the older Zenin sibling, Mai is completely unsupportive of her younger sister. She's the quintessential bitter mean girl who can zero in on the one thing that you're most insecure about and exploit it to no end. Everything she says always ends up sounding sarcastic and condescending, even when she doesn't mean to be. So you're never really sure if she means it when she says she likes your new shirt. Just a hint. She doesn't. At the end of the day, she's the type of person to project her own insecurities onto other people just to make herself feel better. Something both immature and toxic. Next up in this category is Kokichi Muta. You might know him more by his cursed doll, Mekamaru. He's a secretive recluse who rarely talks about himself, even to the people he's close with. He's low-key a bit emo, and it's understandable given his really unfortunate circumstances regarding his health. Still, it doesn't justify him taking out his frustrations on innocent bystanders like Panda. If you don't really have the emotional capacity to deal with whatever angst he's got going on all the time, then you'll probably never bother to get to know him. And honestly, both parties are probably better off that way. Standing atop the true neutrals is none other than Junpei Yoshino. Junpei is that troubled kid in class. We all know one, who's really quiet and keeps to himself. But it's mostly because he was horribly bullied, and his silent cries for help were never heard. All he really wanted was to be able to enjoy his film club with his pals. And sadly, it's his misguided choices, made after he found solace in his friendship with Mahito, that landed him here. He's a nice guy deep down, and if that's your favorite character, you're probably still angry at the anime for doing him so dirty. Now, onto chaotic neutrals. Oh boy, these guys. They're all probably not too right in the head, to be honest. Chaotic neutrals hate rules and traditions, and like to do whatever they want, whenever they want. Still, unlike chaotic goods, they don't feel obligated to make sure that their actions are necessarily seen as good by others. So yeah, these guys do be kind of crazy. The first and only person who truly deserves this title is Satoru Gojo. This guy epitomizes chaotic neutral like no other. Sure, he seems pretty congenial and typically innocuous, but he really doesn't care about following any sort of rules. In fact, he more often than not shirks these rules altogether and just does his own thing. The only reason he ever really gets away with it is because of how powerful he is. Even if he's technically going against his superiors, he knows they wouldn't dare try to stop him anyway, because he's the most indispensable ally they've got. Talk about a power trip. Still being as OP as Gojo is, he might simply be incapable of seeing things the way his weaker counterparts do. Or rather, they don't see the world the way an all-powerful prodigy does. Don't get us wrong. At the end of the day, Gojo fights on the side of good, but he's just a bit too rebellious and unhinged for any other category. Who can blame him though? If you were in his position, you would be too. And at last, we've arrived at the evils. The despicable ones. These guys are truly morally corrupt and only seek to cause as much pain and chaos as they can while fulfilling their usually selfish goals. First up, the lawful evils. Even though these guys are evil, they still have their own code, or they act within a set of ideals that they uphold. They might have some morals, but they're usually terribly twisted and misguided. Starting from the bottom of the list, we have Suguro Gito. He's shady, and not much is known about him yet. But he's gotta be more than a little messed up if he's hanging around guys like Mahito. You're sure he's probably got his own standards, since he doesn't appear to be as crazy as some of the other villains on this list, but you still get the feeling that he's up to no good. Just give him time and he'll reveal just how twisted he is. And the epitome of lawful evil is the tree-hugging activist turned villain, Hanami. Compared to the rest of the curses in Gato's group, Hanami's not all that bad. We have a feeling Hanami would get along swimmingly with Greta Thunberg, who rivals his passion for environmentalism. Hanami only wants to sacrifice all of humanity to give rise to a better Earth. In his mind, humanity kind of has it coming. Some individuals would probably argue that he has a point, Compared to the rest of the evils here, he's got the soundest reasoning. Still, there's always a better solution than mass murder and genocide. Up next, we have the neutral evils. And the natural choice for this list is Choso. This guy doesn't care about anyone but his brothers. He only wants what's best for them, and honestly, that's pretty admirable. He really exemplifies the neutral title pretty well, and doesn't care whose side he's on. He'll do anything as long as it keeps his brothers safe. Too bad he sided with evil. He bumps himself down into the evil category because of his ties to the cursed spirits and their ilk. Second, Jogo, of course. Being a curse, it's expected to see him here chilling with the other villains. Also, he's one of the series' antagonists, so of course, he's going to have less than noble intentions. Being a manifestation of humanity's fear of natural disasters, Jogo hates humans and wants to sow destruction and fear wherever he goes. That's just how these evils do. I mean, to be fair, if you expected something different from a villain, I don't know why you're watching anime. And finally, the absolute worst of the neutral evils is none other than Mahito. If you thought Jogo was bad, get a load of this guy. He has no qualms about using, manipulating, and then killing people. In fact, it's a personal pastime. Mahito might very well be the epitome of evil. He really just doesn't care about anything else but violence and cold-blooded experimentation on helpless humans, deriving nothing short of sheer joy from it. We mean it when we say he's the absolute worst. You just cannot expect any sort of mercy from him. Now, we know what you're thinking. Mahito's more of a chaotic evil than a neutral evil per se. But you'll see why we chose this alignment with our last and final pick. Now, finally, we move on to the chaotic evils. These guys believe in sowing chaos and discord for the sake of wreaking havoc. They don't care about morals or goodness or any of that fluffy crap. They exist for their own selfish, chaotic desires and nothing more. So, the one and only chaotic evil character is Ryomen Sukuna himself. Why? Well, he simply wouldn't have it any other way. He doesn't get along with the other evil characters. Heck, he can't even get along with the person he shares a body with. It would be of the utmost disrespect to place anyone else in his category. He's called the King of Curses after all. Just on merit of who he is, Sukuna lands himself on the throne at the top of the chaotic evils list. And we dare you, just try to challenge him on it. And that was the Jujutsu Kaisen characters ranked from good to evil. Thanks for watching. Do you agree with our list? Comment below and let us know. Also, let us know which series you want to see us morally rank characters from next. I've been Zayden McHale. This has been Cosplay-FTW, and we'll see you in the next one.
Ad time.
This year's almost over, and I'm really glad that life is almost returning to normal. Cons are back. I can see my friends, do cosplays together, and go gift shopping for the holidays. But where will I get my cosplays and gifts? I wonder if Santa knows my size. Santa?
No! I'm Santa Cosplay Bear, and don't worry buddy, SCB has you covered. Just go to Cosplay-FTW.com, where you will find hundreds of cosplays, wigs, and props, and everything you need. Whether you're a content creator, or you want to give someone a very special gift. And they ship worldwide.
Thank you, Cosplay Bear. You and Cosplay-FTW have made this the best holiday.
End of ad.